everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about season 1, episode 3 of Psych.
The title for this episode is Speak Now, Forever Hold Your Peace. It first aired in 2006 on July 21st and was written by Steve Franks and directed by Michael Zinberg.
So, Michael Zinberg also directed a ton of great other TV shows, lots of them on USA, along with Psych. He directed episodes for Burn Notice, In Plain Sight, Monk. Also, good shows like Gilmore Girls, The Practice, Everybody Loves Raymond, Lost, The Blacklist, The Good Wife, Young Sheldon, and NCIS New Orleans, just to name a few. So he's done a lot of great TV.
Yeah, I'm actually a fan of several of those shows. My favorite would probably be Monk and Burn Notice. I,
Ah, love them.
God, maybe we should do a Monk podcast someday. Oh, I love Monk.
Hey,
I haven't seen that show in forever.
when we're done with Psych, we'll have to move on to something else, right?
God, I haven't seen Monk in forever. I would love to watch that, especially with all the Psych I've been watching lately.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
So this week's episode, we have Sean and Gus are assigned a case that does not seem to interest Sean. So instead, he tries to get in on a case that Lassiter's leading that is far more important. The Attorney General's son was getting married, and the ring has been stolen. Sean and Gus are on the case unofficially.
Yeah.
Um, I think this was really cool because it showed, I mean, just from the synopsis alone, it shows that Sean likes a challenge. And
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want something that just seems like monotonous and boring and easy or simple. He wants the exciting thing. He wants the thing that's going to challenge him. So I thought that was a
Well,
cool.
and the thing that he gets to make the most dramatic and, fun, gets him
Yeah.
noticed. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, the most exciting thing.
Yeah, I thought this was a really fun episode too. A great plot, good mystery, a lot of sarcasm riddled throughout the whole episode. And we get the first of some little things in here that I know, Matthew didn't want to spoil quite yet, but yeah, we get a couple first. I also really like how you can see the continuation of like the Sean Juliet trust thing.
hmm
You see them sort of connect again. And we learn in this episode once again that Gus always has a trigger, something that draws him in and makes him want to participate. And
hmm
so that's kind of fun. So he's still kind of short about it, but there's something that draws him in. So it makes for a fun episode.
I love this episode even more than the last one. I
Hmm.
feel like this episode, it's there. Like I feel
Yeah.
like we're into the show now. The characters are who they are supposed to be at the beginning of the show. Um, There's the details about them, their mannerisms, their on-screen chemistry. I feel
We
like
might still
they're
be hoping
there.
for a little bit of growth in some of them,
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah, there's definitely will be growth in them.
right.
I'm talking about from the beginning of the show. Like, if you remember in the first episode, I felt like the show, it wasn't quite Psych yet because they
Yeah.
haven't nailed down these, like, key Psych mannerisms and personality traits. I feel like after 2 episodes, they got him. Like, they figured out what works well for Gus, what works well for Henry, Sean, Lassiter, Juliet, and I felt like there's actual chemistry there, and this is the starting point now for the rest of the show from
Mhm.
episode 3, and I'm really happy about that. I'm really looking forward to the next episodes because of that too.
Yeah, everyone sort of feels settled in a little bit.
And this
Yeah.
episode, there were so many firsts. There's so many firsts in this episode. I was really excited. I was so excited. I used a lot of our tags for special moments. There's so many firsts. And,
Let's remind
yeah.
everyone, you're gonna hear some special tags throughout the show, and these are just things that we've come up with that are like, every episode has these moments. So there is always a Henry lesson. There's always a come on son moment. A come on son moment to us is something that maybe we didn't love that happened in the episode. And so we're like, come on, son. And then we also have a moment called wait for it. And this is kind of one of those moments where it's like, all right, something's about to be revealed. This is kind of a cool moment in the episode. And then we have an ah yeah moment. Matthew does that a little bit better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for fans of the show, you're gonna get where that came from, and we'll get to that episode. But the "ah yeah" moment kind of identifies the best part of the episode for us. So listen for those moments throughout the podcast.
We also have some other ones that'll pop up later on that aren't as relevant yet, but will be a part of the show either halfway through season 1 or the beginning of season 2. I
Mhm.
think beginning of season 2 is where a lot of these, like, uh,
Yeah, they really
notable
kick in.
points really pop up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So now let's kind of go through the episode. Let's get into it here. It starts off with young Sean and Gus. Well, young Sean. Yeah.
Right out the bat, 2 seconds in, we have our young Sean and Gus moment. This is the scene where we see the new young Sean, portrayed by Liam James. And Liam, I believe, goes on to play young Sean for most of the show.
Yep. He was in 60 episodes of the show as young Sean. Best one. The best
Yeah.
one by far.
Yeah, he's definitely my favorite, and I think that I think that he has really good chemistry with the young Gus that I like as well. And I think whatever one they were both in, they both were in, or whatever one either of those in, like the same age. I think they were the same
Mhm.
ages. So I do like the way both of them interact with each other.
This young Sean, I'll add Liam James. He actually he went on to do like a bunch of other different series, but he's currently in a show called Deadly Class. It's on IMDb TV, and he plays a teen that's recruited into a high school for assassins. So might be a cool show to check him out in. I don't know.
I noticed several things during this flashback scene, but the first thing I noticed was on the table in the kitchen. I love the set design stuff. I love the weird choices, and like especially in these beginning episodes. On the kitchen table, on the island, there's a bowl of fruit that has two slices of watermelon in it, just sitting there, because that's what people do. They slice watermelon like an orange and they leave it in a bowl on a table. Very strange. It caught my eye. I thought it was weird. Also, we get one of our second moment notable points here was a Henry lesson.
Yeah.
So Sean is sneaking around the house, not really sneaking, making tons of noise, looking for Gus, who is hiding somewhere. And Henry, the police officer that he is, notices this, and I thought it was he gave a really good lesson here. If you don't know where he is, he shouldn't get to know where you are. And this is advice that I've always remembered from the show, even if I didn't remember it was from the show. And I've given it to people before when it makes sense. I think it's great advice. It's sound and it stands.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I love the little Henry lessons. I mean, he says, do the little things right and play right or don't play at all,
I have that one too. Yeah, that's probably
which
my favorite quote for the show.
it's great. Play right or don't play at all.
He's showing him how to tactically play hide and seek, and he says,
Mhm.
"But Dad, we're just playing." And he responds, "Well, play right or don't play at all," which is a great Henry thing.
You gotta love
They
it.
really nailed that down.
And you know that I mean, Sean walks out like tiptoeing and
Hmm.
it's great. It's great. Good moment. So okay, now next scene, you have Sean and Gus in the police station trying to, figure out what case they're gonna work on next, even if they're not invited to do it. And we've found out at this point that the case is underway about the stolen ring and the attorney general's, the wedding of his son. And so there's press around, and Juliet challenges Lassiter. And I thought this was interesting because it shows exactly why she likes and trusts Sean more. Lassie clearly does not value her input at all. And she backs down to him when she makes a suggestion about the press conference or the press release. And he looks at her like she has no clue and like, you know what, like don't challenge me. And she backs down from it. And you can kind of see her defeat. And I didn't like that.
Yeah, no, that was one of the moments. It happens again, and I think I noticed it the second time it happens, where
Mhm.
Lassiter is a little bit rude to uh, Juliet.
Mhm.
Lassiter is actually just rude in this episode.
He's horrible in
Um,
this episode.
he's really rude, and I think I made a note later how it seems like it might be a point of contention, maybe, where he was intentionally told to play it this way because he's still bitter about his partner. Maybe he hasn't warmed up to Jules yet, and that's why he's aggravated with
Well, and
everybody.
I love how Sean brought up the old partner too.
Mhm.
in the scene in the police station where
Yes. Yeah,
yeah,
whenever they're talking to the
yeah,
the bride and the husband.
exactly, and, Sean's like, yeah, his old partner got, moved because they were, what, having an affair or something. Anyway,
Mhm.
it was like, "Oh, dig it in there, Sean, just dig it in." So,
Right after that scene at 3:30, Sean is, like, using his Henry lessons, snooping to, listen in, and then Gus comes into the scene. He tells Gus that they have this boring case, they want this one with the ring, and then we get, Karen, or, Chief Vic into the picture, and Sean is so bored with this case that he throws out all fanfare, and he immediately is just like, I know who did it. It's her. The handwriting. And he goes into this moment, or into this I don't know, this, like, wanting this annoying trance of, like, I just want this case done. I want something fun to do. And he just starts solving the case without any of his psychic abilities. This is a Gus moment because he, one of many times this episode, steps up, not gives him a little bump on the shoulder, and reminds Sean to psychic it up a little bit. Get the little,
yep,
get the fanfare out. Get the psychic buzz going.
make it dramatic.
hmm So I thought it should be noted that Gus saves Sean in this moment, from possibly getting more questions later on. But yeah, Gus stepped up and saved him.
So, then we have Sean talking to the bride and the groom, and this is where he makes headway here. He's finding information out and wanting to date the bride's or the groom's sister, Lacey. And there's like a little bit of a connection there. He gets invited to the wedding, and in walks Lassie, and then the tension starts. Lassiter has such disdain for Sean. It's really kind of entertaining how much disdain he has for him. He just is so frustrated by his very presence. He does, I mean, whether even if he's helping him, he doesn't want it. Lassie doesn't want it. And so he throws Sean out of the room. And I thought it was, I don't know, that was kind of funny to me how he
I
threw him
have
against
the
the
same.
wall. And
I have the
yeah,
same note. I have a similar
okay.
note. Um, Lasseter hasn't figured out how to handle Sean yet. Um, we mostly now are getting frustrated looks, like disapproval, annoyance, aggression. He hasn't figured out how to, like, let some things just, like, fly off his shoulder. He hasn't figured out how to make jokes back occasionally, and how not to take him so seriously. And that, I think, is kind of a good thing. That gives us, I mean, that's part of what we love about Lassie in the future, is how, you know, they become coworkers and friendly, and we get to see a different side of Lassie other than this uptight side that he portrays.
Well, and it's funny because you said like he is taking Sean too seriously, but
hmm
I think the problem is that he takes himself too seriously.
Although, in his defense, the times in this episode that we do see him with the Attorney General is a jerk. He is just undermining him constantly. So
Yes.
I will give him a little bit of a little leeway here with, professional, I don't know, being uptight professionally. Yeah, he is really, he's getting it from both ends here, dealing with the press, dealing with Vic, dealing with the attorney general.
He's receiving it, but he's giving it back in not such a nice way too.
Right.
So it's kind of like maybe they're wanting to show him like, dude, stop being such a jerk.
Yeah.
You could how do you feel when it's coming at you? I
Mhm.
don't know.
Um, uh, the next one, see, now I have at 10:44, I have my "Come on, son" moment. Lassie is rude. At 10:44, we have the "Come on, son" moment for me. This is the scene where Lassie is rude to Buzz, and I feel like that's even worse than being rude to Juliet or Sean, because it's Buzz. I mean, Buzz is like this nice guy. He's there when you need him. He's a little,
Naive,
uh sure, that's a
innocent.
word for it. He's a little innocent. That's another
Because
word
he
for
like
it.
innocently asked a
But yeah,
question at this moment. It was there was nothing
right.
harsh about what he was asking.
Mhm. Right. But so yeah, that was my comments on. I was not a fan of how rude every Lassiter has been to everybody, especially to
Yeah, he
Buzz.
came off really pompous right
Eh,
then. Lassie, having him get him coffee and like
yeah.
it was just so I don't know, just so pompous. I didn't care for that aspect of his character in this episode by any means.
Oh, you had that one too. Okay. Hmm. You know, yeah. It's there's also another one in this same interaction where they're doing the I guess the briefing about the case. Um, he just goes from one to the other, from Buzz to Juliet, because Juliet I think kind of stepped up to back up Buzz. Like
Yeah,
she tried, like she took up that role, and she's like, "That was not cool." And she stepped in, and she's like, "Well, don't, is it really that crazy? Like it's not."
or
I don't
like,
know.
is this your only suspect? Yeah.
I like that Juliet stepped up for Buzz, and again, Lassiter was rude with her. He's just on edge this episode, especially with how he did it too. He's like, because the quote was about the hotel manager didn't respond to questioning. He was hostile in questioning, and Julia was like, "What does hostile mean?" And he's like, "Use my tone as a
Ugh,
guide."
such a
Like
jerk.
it was a good scene. It was a good scene as far as the acting goes with how he did it, but it
And it
was a
was
little
just that.
uncomfortable.
And you can tell, you can tell that she would leave that briefing and not be happy with how she's being seen. So that's when she's having food and Sean sees her. And I thought a really cool moment was that he saw her and knew he was going to go sit there with her. And he like wipes his shoulders off as if to make sure he doesn't have dandruff on his coat or something because he wanted to impress her. So I like that little touch that they added, like, Sean wants to impress her, he wants to look good going over there and sitting down, and, like, they just start kind of bonding there, like, there's a thing. He's got her hand and, he was watching that briefing, so he knows how she's feeling and, like, how she feels not listened to, and yeah, it was a good
Mhm.
moment between the 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I notated that one as well. It is a good because they're the relationship between Lassie, Jules, and Sean throughout the show changes. It does evolve, and right now it was a moment for them to team up when Laster wasn't including either of them. To because I mean, ultimately, Jules just wants to solve the case. She doesn't really care how it's solved. Lassie wants to solve it in his way, like what he deems the right way to do
Mhm.
police work, the serious way. And Sean just wants to
And
solve the case and
Juliet
have a
is
good
open
time.
to a little bit of
So,
both.
right, Juliet is like that
Mhm.
liaison between the police world and the psychic world. She's open to it. She's
She's
doesn't
the glue.
disbelieve him. Hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So at 1422, we have the first introduction of Gus's make believe cat. Sean is upset that Gus is not with him solving the case and stuck at work, so he calls in to tell Gus's coworkers that Gus's cat is sick and he needs to leave. And they gave us a couple details of the cat that I'm curious about if they stay at all, because we do come across a
Mhm.
couple iterations of Gus's uh not or female little boy cat. And I'm curious if they match up later on in the show. So his fake cat is a female orange tabby named Mr. Pickles. Or I'm sorry, Miss Pickles. They wish it was Mr.
Yeah, I do remember, in other episodes, the cat being referred to. So we'll see where that goes. I thought
Mhm,
this led up to a really great moment though too, where the women in the office are upset because Gus knows that it was Sean making this call. He doesn't have a cat. He
mhm,
knows Sean just wanted to get him out of the building. So the women in his office make him go, essentially. They guilt him into going. And he goes outside. There's Sean sitting on the car waiting for Gus to come out. He knows that Gus is not into helping with this case. So he mentions a safe. And all at once, here it is. Here's the button that he pushes to get Gus pulled into the episode or into the mystery, into the case. And so it's like the forensics people in episode 1, the spelling bee in episode 2. All you got to do is find what element of that case is gonna, like, pique his interest, and he's all in. That's it it's
Interest. Yeah.
great. It's a great little dynamic between the 2 of them
Yep.
because Sean knows what button to push.
Yeah, one of Gus's many interests on the show is safe cracking, and the safe they mentioned was the Hydra 700. And it always changes. I don't know how Gus keeps up with all these details. I mean, it's part of what makes him, I guess, good at his job as the
Mhm.
pharmaceutical rep, being able just to like memorize all these different things and keep all this stuff in his head. But he has lots of different um, hobbies on this throughout the entire show. It blows my mind how he keeps track of all this stuff. But yeah, that is one of the lovable things about Gus that we are starting to get introduced to is all of his hobbies and his very strange areas of interest.
He's very, very
Oh
smart,
yes, yeah,
and so,
without doubt.
you this is it's one of the dynamics that too make you go, "Why do these 2 get along so much?" Because Sean is smart in his own way, but he is not book smart the way that
Yeah,
Gus is, for sure.
right. Yeah, Gus almost has like an eidetic memory with the way that he can just spout out facts and details about
Yeah,
things, and
definitely.
yeah,
So they go to the hotel where the wedding's gonna take place, and they run into the chief there, and I love that moment where they're she comes up to them and she whispers to them that, "I didn't see you here at all, but call me if you find anything out." And so, and then, like, Sean's like, "I love her." Yes.
I missed that on my first viewing. I
Oh,
missed that. I caught it
yeah.
before we started the show. Yeah,
I
I called it.
love
He's like,
her.
I love
Like,
her.
she
Like
gets him. She wants his help.
it was good.
She doesn't really care. Like, this is where the "I know you know" comes in. Like, particularly with the chief, is that you wonder the whole time. Does she know that he's full of it? Does she
Hmm.
know? Really? Does she can't prove it, obviously, but she know? But I don't think she cares either, as long as he gets to the bottom of the information.
I think Lassie's the only one that cares, and that's just because he doesn't like his ways. I don't think any of them would care as long as the case is getting solved. I mean, that's what he's there for, anyways. As long as he's not actually wasting their time with like like wasting police like resources. I don't think any of them would care.
Lassie just doesn't wanna be bested though, you know? He just doesn't want someone to do that better than him.
The next one is very exciting.
We both
We
have
both
it.
have it here,
Yeah.
as we should. At 1858, we have the first introduction of
Nicknames.
Gus's nicknames.
Yay!
This one This time, Sean introduces Gus to the wedding party as Peter Panic,
Yeah, can
and
we
so
just
it
say that
begins.
this is the first of many, many amazing nicknames that there will be for Gus.
Hmm.
Many, many nicknames, and they're all hysterical.
Oh, they're great. I love them all. They're so great. They're so random. It's just one of those. It's another one of those moments in this show that just makes you laugh every time you see it. In the same scene where Gus gets introduced as Peter Panic, we also get to see Gus be introduced as an expert in a field that he's not actually an expert in,
Which also
or just a
happens all
hobby
the
in,
time.
and he's yes, exactly. And this time he is a safe cracking expert when in reality he just has an online subscription to Safe Cracking Quarterly. But it is a trade publication, so that you know that's
Validates
something.
it, you know?
Um, exactly. In this scene, we also get another moment with Sean and his possible love interest this episode, and Sean has a run-in with the attorney general. That's not so great. The attorney general definitely doesn't believe in psychics. Um, but the key a key element here is that Sean walked into a room without knocking on the door, using a key card that he wasn't supposed to have, and he managed to get out of it this time. But then we have at 20 minutes 26 seconds the second time that Gus saves Sean. Simply when Sean goes to use his key card to get into a room, Gus like reaches over in front of him and knocks on the door first, and you can even see it on Sean's face where he's like,
Mhm.
"Yep, that was
Yeah,
smart."
could have done that. He did
So
not
yeah,
do that on the door that he went into first a couple minutes back. And I loved that moment
Mhm.
because he opened the door and it took him 5 seconds to realize that that was not the room of the thief. I love how he notices everything. It's fantastic. He knew that the wallet on the table, yeah, it was like
Yeah, that was a
it was, but
valid
it was so
deduction.
quick. It was just like it was so quick. So yeah,
Yeah.
he knew that wasn't the thief because they left the wallet out. But yeah, Gus saves him. Gus knocks on the door. Gus knocks him on the elbow. He saves him.
So as they're doing their search, they eventually find their way into the kitchen, and they open up the dumbwaiter and they find the body of the what
The
is it?
hotel
The
manager.
hotel
I love this
hotel
moment
manager, I
so
think.
much. This highlights a moment that I
Mhm.
highlighted in episode 1 that Gus runs away from the dead bodies.
Yep.
His
Gus
face
squirms. Yep, we get to
his
see him
face
squirm
when he
again.
sees the body, and even later in the episode when they see the body again, he has the same look on his face. He cannot take it. I also I also really liked at this time when Henry's on the phone with Sean and Sean asks him how long does it take for a body to smell bad? That that's hysterical.
Henry
He
doesn't even
just, like,
answer.
slams the phone down, like, "I'm not even gonna answer this question for you, Sean. What are you involved in? I told you I wasn't gonna help you with this," you know? He
Mhm.
just slams the phone down, but it was a great moment. Gus just he couldn't take it.
Then we get another disapproving, well, yeah, another disapproving Gus moment when they break into Lassiter's room for a second time, and Sean just like jumps on the bed, turns on the TV,
He's
he's eating
totally
some
comfortable.
cookies, like not a care in the world. Gus is nervous that Lassiter, the head detective, is going to walk in at any point now because it's his room. And then house guests start showing up. And Sean tells Gus that they are hosting the bachelor party in Lassiter's room without telling him, without any kind of planning or forethought. And you get Gus's disapproving face for, why do you keep doing this to me, Sean? Like I feel like that's what it was,
Why?
is like, why are you
Exactly.
doing this to me? Gus is gonna have like
He
an ulcer
does
at the end of
find
the
out
episode.
later what Sean's motivation was because at 28 minutes in this episode, the drunk groom gives away the motive for the crime. He gives it away.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so I think that I think it all became clear to Gus because, Sean basically tells him these guys drink and they start talking. We're getting information this way. So it was a good way to do it, but maybe not the greatest location.
Yeah, get him comfortable, get
Location
him drunk. Yeah,
could have been different.
yeah, it could have been done something else, but see, this is where Sean wanted to make it more
Right.
exciting and more interesting. This is where it steps back in with his personality. He's like, I want the challenge. And this ties back in at the end of the episode again, which I loved. And
Yeah, we'll get
well, I
to
don't
it.
want to skip ahead, but it does tie it back in. This choice ties into another funny bit
Absolutely.
at the end of the episode.
Absolutely.
But here we go. 29 minutes, 38 seconds. We have Where's the Pineapple? Now, not only
There's
is there one
two.
instance, but there's two instances of the pineapple in this episode. This is at the bachelorette party. Sean is on the couch with the love
Lacey.
interest.
Mhm.
Was it Lacey, I think? And behind them, there's like a silver tray, and it has cut up pineapple on it. But then on Lacey's dress, there's a bunch of pineapples
Wait,
all over
there's
it.
a third. No,
It
there's
was a
3.
twofer.
There's 3. There's another
What?
one the next day, the day of the wedding, when Sean goes in to visit with them before the bouquets come in, there is a fruit tray on the table in there as well with cut up pineapple on it also. 3
Three
pineapple,
pineapple.
all
Wow,
within, like, 3 minutes of the
that was a
show.
doozy.
Yeah, lots of
That's
pineapple.
crazy. That was, yeah. See, I didn't even look at the last one. Once I saw it at the 29:38, I
Mhm.
didn't even look again. Mm,
Hey,
shame
I
on me.
missed
Next
it on
time.
the dress.
Next time. The dress was the one that I missed
Yeah.
initially, but I felt was the
I
most
I
obvious out of
can't
the three.
imagine why I would have missed it on the dress, but I missed it.
It was literally like yellow and green, like
Yeah, and
polka
now that you
dotted
say it, I
pineapples
totally
all over
saw
her
it, but
dress.
I didn't yeah, anyway,
Hmm.
good catch. Great catch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my wait for it moment was in that room after the bouquets come in, and Lacey, of course, freaks out about finding her bouquet. And so Sean's already kind of like keyed in there. But when she does the sleight of hand and gets the flower from the little girl's ear so she can put it on in her hair, it showed him that she had that ability to like do that sleight of hand trick. So maybe, just maybe, she was the one that took the ring when it was going into the safe. Hmm. That's my wait for it.
Yep, I could see it.
Mhm.
Interesting use of the wait for it for something that's going to happen later on in the episode. Okay, okay, I like it. The next scene that we have is in the chapel. It's the day of the wedding. They still haven't solved the case. The cops are still there on site, and we have Sean and Gus in the pews. And I don't know. I thought it was a funny moment because it was one of those things that it was a really small, quick moment, but I was laughing for at least a couple minutes during the scene, and I rewound it and watched it again just because of that. It was when Sean sits next to him, and or I'm sorry, Gus sits next to Sean, and Gus compliments his suit, and Sean is just like all like, "Oh yeah, yeah." He blows it off like it's not a big deal, it's nothing, and then he like inspects it. He inspects it further on, and he sees behind the lapel the price tag, and he pulls out the price tag and looks at it, and then Sean's like, "No, no, 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 no! Don't pull that off! Don't pull it off!" He has like a mini panic attack freak out the second Gus touches the price tag.
Absolutely.
And like his whole body is panicked. Like his arms come up, like no, 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 don't touch it, don't touch it. Like he's touching like a bomb, like a bomb
Like,
that's
he does
strapped to his
not
chest.
wanna have to really
It
pay
was
for that
really
suit.
funny to me. Yeah, it was so funny to me. I don't know if it hit everybody the same way as me, but I was rolling when I saw that. I love that. It was so quick too. It literally was a matter of like 10 seconds for that whole scene. I was
That's
on the
one of the
floor. It was
things, though,
funny.
about James Roday, like, it's perfect body language, like, very good physical comedy guy. He's great at it.
Oh yeah. Yep, he's so perfect as Sean. He really made the character what it is. He could never be
Absolutely.
replaced as Sean. Also, I did notice something that's more of a side note here. Um, in the chapel, well, actually, even before this, I guess there's another thing that I thought was actually kind of funny. Was he was talking to Gus? He thinks he knows what's going on, and he's like, "Should I say something? Am I able to say something at this point?" And he's like, and Gus is like, how sure are you?" And he's like, 60%. And Gus is like, "Shut your mouth." I don't know, just the way that Gus, the way it's like Gus has been here before, where he's running the numbers on whether or not it's worth it, and he's been in this position before, and he's like, "Dude, shut your mouth. Do not interrupt this wedding, Sean." Yeah, it was good. But I did notice that after they make the accusation, Sean stands up, makes his accusation. It pans across to different people in the room to see their reactions to what he's saying, and when it shifts to the father, the attorney general, behind him is a man in a full upper cast with both his arms broken, with like the little stints that hold his
Missed
arms up.
that.
And I don't understand why he's there. Like if you're filling this space, this small chapel with extras, and like we never get introduced to him.
I do not understand how I missed that.
It was only for like a split second whenever the camera pans to him, he's right over him. But yeah, his arms are up, the full cast, and I don't know why
That's
he's there. Like they don't ever talk about him. They don't ever discuss why this man's arms are broken. He's never introduced as a character.
why would he
So
be an
why put
extra?
this very strange
Why?
person there? Exactly. I
It's
was so
funny.
confused. I rewatched it twice, and yeah, he's there. I don't know why. I wish that I looked it up. I tried digging for it, and I couldn't find anything on the man
Wow.
in this episode with the two broken arms.
Well, obviously, at that moment, Sean solves the case. He lets everyone know Lacey has taken the ring. Lacey runs. They chase her down. And then another funny moment, I didn't add it in here, but when the bouquet goes flying across the room and Gus catches it, it was perfect. The look on Gus's face, the look on Sean's face, and Sean's like, "You're next."
You're next.
It was a great moment. But I loved the next part when they cut to Lassie trying to pay his bill for his room, and it's
Mhm.
$1,600. And he's like, "I was hardly even in the room." And so it was so funny to me. That's the episode, or that's the part of the episode that I was laughing so hard in, because it was so great. He knows it was Sean. He can't he can't prove it, but $1,600, and he was hardly even in there.
I have one at this point too. I think mine's more
Uh-huh.
towards the end of this one. At 4108, this is my all yeah
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
The case has been solved. Lassiter brings Sean into the front desk to see if this is the guy that the two people would notice, the bellhop and the front desk guy would notice. They cover him due to the previous op that Sean was running with him, saying that he's from Interpol. And I thought this was hilarious. I love this when the two guys covered for him because after Lassiter walks away angrily again, um, Sean ends his little speech with a British accent, thanking the guys for their assistance with the Interpol
Perfect.
operation. I thought this was hilarious, and it was a callback to the first. Mhm, it was a full circle moment. Yep, and then they also filled the jacuzzi with champagne. Yeah. Oh yeah. He ends it with Lassiter pulls him over. He's like, "Is this the guy?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "You had a suite? We should have a party." And everybody knows what's going on.
Great.
Ugh,
This show
God,
is so
that
funny.
was
This
good.
this show, I love how much I laugh at this show. It's great. So good changes in this episode. We did have a couple. One of them for sure, was the new young Sean. So that was like my favorite one this week. Yeah, we got the nicknames. So for me, this episode held up great. I There's nothing in this episode other than tech that dates it for me. Nothing at all. It's all still
Yeah,
right on for me. I think it holds up great, and it's still hysterical.
yeah. As far as holding up over time goes, the show itself, I loved it as a comedy. I loved it. There was lots of funny moments, lots of character development and character mannerisms that we got to see, individualizing each character and letting them work together a little bit. Um, Especially for Jules and Gus. Gus with his being able to assist and getting to know a little bit more about him and his interests. And yes, as far as like a withdrawal, like with the exception of tech, it doesn't really seem old or anything. So yeah, if this was on TV today, it would still, I think, be perfectly fine. I I do have to say though, so in this episode, we find out at the end that Lacey like pocketed the ring with sleight of hand whenever like they handed it to her. She pretended to like clean it and like straighten it, and she pocketed it and closed the thing and handed it off. We don't see that part of the video surveillance footage until the very end. They do purposely cut around that part of the footage. If we did see that from the very beginning, I do have to say I think that we all would have known that she grabbed it because that's like the only it's like Occam's razor, like that's the only thing that could have happened in that scenario. So, as far as a crime show goes, this was a very I think a very easy one to solve
Well,
if they
okay,
gave us all the
but the
information.
opposite take on that is that if they showed us that, it would have been far less interesting to watch them get to the conclusion.
Well,
So, I mean,
sure,
because you had to put everything else
but
together.
I don't think that that really valid. As far as a crime go as a comedy, it was fantastic. I had a great time. As far as a crime show goes, though, my problem with it is that everybody else saw it. So Lassiter saw the footage, Jules saw the footage, Sean and Gus saw the footage. Everybody else saw it. It wasn't information that we didn't have initially. They just didn't show us because we would have all immediately assumed it was Lacey who took it. So that's where my thing comes in is it would have been a really easy mystery to solve if we had saw what everybody else saw.
Yeah. Well, I think
But
that's all in the nature
that
of
is
making
just
it fun for
the
the viewer. I mean,
that's true. That's true. And that it's
Yeah.
this is not a serious crime show, so it doesn't matter. If this was like this on CSI or, like, NCIS or something, then I would definitely
Yeah.
have more of an issue with it. I just feel like I had to mention
Right.
it. I couldn't just not mention that it was, like, a very easy mystery. Some mysteries are
Mhm.
easier, some are harder. The last mystery with the, on episode 2 with the spelling bee
Mhm.
and the shocking Morse code inhaler, that one was a regardless of what we saw, we wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah.
one. Like, that was a really good mystery. So, I had to mention it even though it does kind
Gotcha.
of,
Gotcha.
eh, but it's important.
Okay, so foods in the episode. There was a lot of fruit in this episode. There we saw a lot of fruit. They ate fruit,
With lots of party,
they
fruit
ate
trays.
cookies.
Mhm.
There's always food there. Oh, there's always food.
All right. So, everybody, I want to thank everybody for listening in and tuning in for the show. On the next episode, we will be discussing season 1, episode 4, titled Woman Seeking Dead Husband, Smokers Only, No Pets.
We hope that you'll get a chance to watch the episode before our next show too, so that you can kind of go through it with us a little bit. And you can stream that on Amazon or Peacock.
And don't forget to follow us. We have a Facebook group, We Know You Know, Ellipses, a podcast about psych, where we post things about the show when we're doing the show, as well as little fun facts, maybe photos and screenshots of parts of the episode we liked.
You can also catch us on Instagram at the Psych Podcast, no spaces.
Or you can email us using our Gmail. It's a the psych podcast at gmail.com. Again, no spaces.
Thanks everyone for listening. Well, hopefully you'll come back next week and hear us again.
Thanks everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.